It's midnight, you're scrolling through real estate listings, and every house that doesn't look like a demolition site costs $500,000. The kitchen has laminate countertops from 2003, and the basement has fake wood paneling, and the listing agent somehow has the audacity to call it a starter home. Meanwhile, everyone around you insists this is completely fine. The mortgage broker says you're approved, your parents remind you they bought a house at your age on way less, and some TikTok influencer is flipping properties with no money down. You're left doing mental math, wondering if you missed a massive promotion or if the entire market has collectively lost its mind. This chart shows the glaring disconnect. Here is the block representing the median American household income of around $84,000 a year. Yet we're asking those exact same people to buy homes that cost 6 times their annual income. If that ratio sounds insane, you're paying attention. The problem is that the system's definition of affordable is a mathematical lie. There is a massive difference between what a bank will approve you for and what you can actually afford without turning your life into a financial stress simulator. Let's start with the down payment, because that's where most people's dreams go to die. The old rule of thumb is putting 20% down. On a $500,000 house, that is exactly $100,000 in cash. This visual shows the uncomfortable reality. The median savings account in America has around $8,000 in it. That $8,000 leaves a gap of $92,000 before you even reach the starting line. Putting down less than 20% triggers a monthly expense called PMI, or private mortgage insurance. PMI is an extra fee added to your mortgage by the lender when your down payment is below that 20% threshold. You might think that insurance protects you, but it doesn't. It protects the bank in case you default. It is essentially a poverty tax, running anywhere from $200 to $400 a month. You are paying extra cash every single month for an insurance policy that covers the bank's risk, not yours. On a $450,000 loan, the base payment is $2,800. Add $500 for property taxes, $300 for insurance, $417 for maintenance, and a $300 PMI penalty. Your true monthly cost is $4,367. Financial advisors say housing shouldn't exceed 28% of your gross income. To safely afford that monthly payment, you need to make over $150,000 a year. Only about 20% of US households make that much, meaning 80% of Americans cannot afford a $500,000 house under any reasonable financial standard. But people are still buying these houses. Let's see what happens when a high-earning household tries to make this math work. Meet a hypothetical couple earning a combined $160,000 a year. They are solidly in the upper middle class. They should be completely comfortable, right? After taxes and retirement, their $160,000 gross income shrinks to $9,500 a month. Subtract the $4,367 housing cost. Deduct cars, insurance, groceries, student loans, and utilities. The remaining budget evaporates rapidly. We haven't touched clothing, childcare, medical copays, or building an emergency fund. This couple isn't buying jet skis or taking European vacations. Despite a high income, they're spending nearly half of their actual take-home pay on housing, leaving them with zero financial margin. This is what being house poor actually feels like day to day. It feels like saying no to your kid's field trip because you might need that $35 if the check engine light comes on. You live with the visceral anxiety of being one broken appliance away from putting basic survival on a high-interest credit card. The housing system largely ignores this precarious reality. Sellers list at comparable prices, banks approve loans on gross income, and agents encourage stretching your budget. Nobody in the transaction has an incentive to warn you that you're about to financially drown, because they all secure their profits at the closing table. You are the one left trapped with long-term risk. We have allowed a culture of social pressure to rebrand this financial desperation as a completely standard rite of passage. Can't afford furniture for 3 of your rooms? You're just building equity. Society tells you that renting is throwing money away, ignoring the fact that struggling to pay a mortgage you can't afford is also throwing money away, just with much worse consequences. Struggling to afford a home is a predictable outcome of a market where home prices have increased roughly 400% since 1990, while median household income has only grown by about 180%. The math simply doesn't add up for most people anymore. So let me give you permission to do something radical. You can reject a rigged game. You can look at that $500,000 home, run the real math, and reject the premise entirely. Because here's what actually builds wealth. It isn't owning a house you can barely afford. True wealth comes from having margin in your budget. It comes from consistent investing and sleeping at night without lying awake doing mental math about covering the next month's payment. There is no shame in continuing to rent while you save aggressively for a market correction. There is no failure in targeting drastically cheaper markets or smaller homes. You do not get a trophy for buying a house that makes you miserable. Real wealth is financial freedom and peace of mind. It is not being held hostage by illiquid equity in a house you cannot afford. If the math doesn't work, walk away.